So he asked the question, how would me accepting his narrative of being Hebrew Israelite disrespectful to my ancestors? This comes from a previous conversation that he and I was having, where he was saying I'm too smart for my own good, and then one day I'm going to wake up and realize that I am a Hebrew Israelite. But I told him that that would be disrespectful to my ancestors, and he couldn't understand why not. Well, how is that disrespectful? Well, it's disrespectful, and there's two thought processes that come to mind when he says that. The first part about it is this: I've done the genealogy on my family. I've done the research on my family, as I've said before in other videos. I know that my family makeup, there's a little bit of Caucasian, a little bit of Creek Indian, but it's mostly Nigerian Yoruba tribe, and then it's Dogon Mali tribe. So it would be disrespectful to my ancestors for me to say that I am a Hebrew Israelite. And he said in another one, like, how did, about my ancestors, they didn't create me. Everybody is created by your ancestors. You hold the genealogy of your ancestors within your DNA. Without your ancestors, you would not exist. So if someone had killed your mom or your dad prior to you being born, you would not exist. They killed your grandparents prior to you being born, you would not exist. Therefore, your ancestors did create you, because through your ancestry is how you were born. Now, it's disrespectful to my ancestors, who I know were not Hebrew Israelites, that my Yoruba family practiced Ifa. They were not Hebrew Israelite. My Mali family practiced Islam, and before that, they were Dogons. That would be disrespectful because they were not Hebrew Israelites. You can try to manipulate it all you want, but my ancestry was around before any Hebrews were ever thought of, before 500 BCE, before the first ever mentioning of a Hebrew in 1400 BCE in the Meneptah Stele. So therefore, Hebrews and the idea of Hebrew and this Bible that you hold on to were not in existence when my family, my heritage, were in existence. So that's why it would be disrespectful. You cannot claim every black person is a Hebrew, because they were not the original people on this planet. There were people in existence long before that religion ever came about, before that people group were ever established. They did not populate the planet. But if you are holding on to this Bible, then you're going to believe and accept that from the children of Noah, you get the rest of the genealogy of the planet. That's invalid. It's not a true story. It's not historically accurate. It's not that DNA accurate. So therefore, it's disrespectful to my genealogy, to my ancestors, to just take away everything that they were, just to simply hold on to this narrative. And that brings about the second thought process. The fact that if it wasn't one of the dominant religions on the planet, the Abrahamic religions weren't the dominant religions on the planet, then the people in the diaspora, people around the world, would not be trying to hold on to this narrative and then trying to claim that they are part of it. It does irk my soul every time I hear a person who is trying to validate this story of Noah and his flood. We've already proved that the flood was not a worldwide flood. It was a localized flood, and that the flood happened after the Younger Dryas period, when the sea levels rose 400 feet. My ancestors have stories of that. Asian people have stories of that. South Pacific, American, North American, South American, Caribbean, they all have stories that correlate with the fact that the sea level rose about 400 feet. We have archaeological evidence that the sea level rose about 400 feet about 13,000 years ago and caused a worldwide coastal flood. It only happened to coastal people. So, sir, why do we have this mentality? We have this mentality because from the Levant, the Romans picked up on the Old Testament with Vespasian and the other writers that he brought into camp, Josephus, my guy out of Alexandria, Egypt. I forgot his name, just fell out of my head. But those people created that narrative. The Roman government then forced this narrative in 382 onto everyone in the Roman Empire, and then other nations like the Oxium Empire adopted it after that point. True. Were there some Christians who had came to Ethiopia? Sure. Did they establish Ethiopia, the Ottoman Empire, as a Christian empire? No, that didn't happen until 382, a little bit after 382. Were there Hebrew people that did scatter all around the world? Sure, but they became part of other cultures that were already in existence prior to them ever expanding out to those areas. But they were of small number. Were there some Hebrews that became slaves in the Americas? Yes, some, but not all. That is a misnomer. You cannot put them as all because they were not numerous enough to be the all of group that came to the Americas. So no, my family is not Hebrew Israelites. They're not. But we have this psychology that says that whatever the norm is, that's what we want to gravitate towards, and we want to falsify claims to it. I have yet to meet a Hebrew Israelite, and I'm sure that there are some, who can trace their genealogy back to one of the 12 tribes of Israel. But most people are just adopting it because they come from an oppressed situation, and it's something that they feel they can connect to that gives them some level of pride, some level of connection. But you're completely dismissing all the other civilizations and people groups that were established long before that one. But I understand the psychology. You want to feel a part of something. You want to feel like you have some level of attachment to the all and to the beginnings of human civilization and human creation. But it doesn't have to be the way that the governments over thousands of years have insisted is the way that human civilization and human creation came about. Everybody has different creation stories. Everybody had their own interpretations of how the universe was created, how the planet was created, because they had their own religions, their own spiritualities. And it's disrespectful that you would negate everybody else's religion simply because you need to feel confident in the one that you now follow. I will never disrespect my ancestors, and I will never disrespect the ancestors of others. If you can trace your genealogy back to Hebrew Israelite, great for you. But that does not mean that everybody that looks like you has the same genealogy. You really need to study more, understand more, so that you can free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.